Hello everyone and welcome to SpeedWeek. I'm Derek Daly. I want to wish my colleague Bob Jenkins a speedy recovery from back surgery. I'll be filling in for Bob for the next few weeks while he recuperates. We have a full recap of the Labor Day racing weekend coming up, and we begin with drag racing's premier event. The curtain came down on Monday on the 40th running of the U.S. Nationals in dramatic fashion. Although the weekend's perfect weather conditions ended on Monday morning, Mother Nature finally cooperated. A record crowd was tallied at over 156,000, and for the first time, the finals ran under lights. Here's Dave McClelland.
It was almost a surreal setting with the haze and a 9 o'clock hour. But for the fans, it was worth the wait. First off was the Pro Stock Bike Final featuring series dominator David Schultz aboard the Sunoco Suzuki, and in the far lane, the Wax Shop Suzuki carrying Jim Bernard. Schultz, who had already set a track record ET of 7.551 earlier in the weekend, used a quicker reaction time to leave Bernard in his wake with a 7:62 elapsed time and a speed of over 171 miles an hour. The points leader credited his U.S. Nationals victory to a Saturday setback when John Myers beat him in the finals of the Wax Shop Dash.
After we made a mistake in the Wax Shop Dash, then it was like, okay, you know how to do this better than that. So we worked late night and came back out and laid down a 7:55 run, which we felt like nobody could touch, and nobody did.
Next up, Pro Stock, and the man who really seems to have the quarter mile at IRP figured out. 5 times Warren Johnson has made the final round of the U.S. Nationals. His opponent, Mark Powick in the Summit Racing Oldsmobile Cutlass, made it to his first final round appearance of the year by virtue of a semifinal win over a tractionless Darrell Alderman. In a very close match, the 50-year-old Johnson pushed his GM Performance Parts Olds Cutlass across the line first for his 47th career victory, and most importantly, his 3rd straight U.S. Nationals crown.
It's every racer's dream to win Indy. This is the biggest race NHRA's got to offer all year long. And to win it once, I think everybody that's their dream. But to win it 3 times in a row, like I said, we're delirious about this thing.
Alderman leaves Indy with a 672-point lead over second-round loser Scott Jeffreyon. Besides his $35,000 first prize, Johnson picked up valuable points on Jeffreyon and now sits in 3rd, just 846 points out of 2nd place. In the funny car final, the biggest surprise was the absence of runaway points leader John Force. Bested by Casey Spurlock in round 2, Force had to watch as the former NHRA Rookie of the Year staged his Fruit of the Loom Dodge Avenger against 1992 U.S. Nationals champion Cruz Pedregon. His McDonald's Olds was last to stage. Both left with identical 488 reaction times, but Spurlock couldn't hold on, and Pedregon hit a 513 at over 288 miles an hour to gather up his 2nd U.S. Nationals title and some $70,000.
When I got back to the pit area, I thought, well, hey, if we can make the final round, not having to deal with Force would be a lot easier because he's on a roll right now. But, hey, Spurlock and those guys were tough, but we hung in there. My guys did what it took.
Force has a substantial points lead, but with the win, Pedregon climbs into 3rd, 1,167 behind Al Hoffman, who was eliminated in the first round. Monday's road to the Top Fuel final was the most dramatic. In round 2, Don Prudhomme's last shot at his 8th U.S. Nationals came to a close. He broke in the near lane as Kenny Bernstein was on his way to an incredible run of 307.79 miles an hour, the 2nd fastest speed in NHRA history. But Bernstein, who turned 50 on Tuesday, was not able to back it up when Connie Coletta left him behind in the semis. With the youngsters taken care of, 56-year-old Coletta met 58-year-old Eddie Hill in the Top Fuel final. Coletta's American International Airways machine took off with a 4:58 reaction time, but this one wasn't over until the very end. Coletta used an elapsed time of 4.80 seconds and a speed of over 301 miles an hour to win his first ever U.S. Nationals title. For these two gentlemen who have seen it all in drag racing, it was an emotional scene at the finish line.
Great moment down here. Eddie Hill, Connie Coletta. Connie, you've won Indy.
Yes, it's something I've been wanting to do for many, many years. I've been here a lot. It's amazing. My mom, a couple years ago, she called me one night and she says, Connie, she says, that bottle of champagne I've had for 15 years, celebrate you winning? She says, I drank it.
Even though he was eliminated in the second round, points leader Scott Coletta stretched his lead over round one loser Joe Amato, and Don Prudhomme has closed the gap. He's just 46 points out of second place. For SpeedWeek, I'm Dave McClellan.
Thanks, Dave. Well, in last week's show, I had my first up-close look at drag racing in a superstock. But let me tell you something, it is nothing compared to the sheer speed and brute force that you see and feel when you're anywhere close to a funny car or a top fuel dragster. This weekend, ESPN celebrates 15 years of cable sports broadcasting, and we are proud that motorsports has been a major player since that first year of 1979. Throughout the evening, we will take a look back at the evolution of auto racing's coverage on the nation's largest cable network. Happy birthday, ESPN. The Cup community received more good news last weekend on the condition of Ernie Irvin. On Saturday, the ventilator was removed and his condition was upgraded to fair. Now, midweek, he was removed from intensive care, and we're happy to report that Ernie has started to talk. Another Labor Day tradition continued last weekend with the 44th annual Mountain Dew Southern 500 in Darlington, South Carolina. Now, hampered much of the weekend by rain, the cars had only very few laps of practice, but ideal conditions did prevail on Sunday, and our Marty Reed had a prime view from pit road and has the highlights.
Jeff Bodine started from the pole for the fourth time this season with a new track record and grabbed the early lead. Ken Schrader had high hopes of breaking a 99-race losing streak when he made his way past Bodine on lap number 7, but Jeff did not give up the lead easily. Schrader earned the bonus points for leading most laps of the day, but both he and Jeff would fall victim later in the race to overheating and engine problems. The first caution of the day came early when Brett Bodine and Jeff Gordon came together on the front stretch, sending Brett into a 360-degree spin. Brett was able to continue to a 29th place finish, while Gordon would recover to finish 6th. At the halfway point of the race, accidents at opposite ends of the track occurred as Sterling Marlin spun in turn 2, while on the front stretch, Jimmy Spencer brought out the caution flag after contact with Steve Grissom, putting into the wall. Dale Earnhardt emerged in the second half of the race to challenge Mark Martin as the dominant car as they battled, with Earnhardt making his classic move between turns 3 and 4 to retake the lead. Martin would later regain that lead, but would fall victim to engine problems with just 45 laps remaining in the race. Earnhardt took the lead following Martin's misfortune, but a loose handling condition allowed Bill Elliott to close the gap and take the lead with only 13 laps to go. Elliott would nurse his Ford Thunderbird over the final laps with water temperatures at 265 degrees to break a 52-race losing streak that dated back to Atlanta in November of '92. Earnhardt's second-place finish allowed him to extend his points lead to 227 over Rusty Wallace. Mark Martin drops to third, 283 behind, with Ricky Rudd jumping 2 positions to fourth, with a recovering Ernie Irvin now holding the 5th position. For SpeedWeek, I'm Marty Reed.
Well, you won't see Elliott and Junior Johnson's Thunderbird next year because on Tuesday in Charlotte, the much-anticipated and once-postponed press conference made it official. Elliott teams up with McDonald's in a star-studded sponsorship deal that continues its crossover to the NHRA. No, Elliott isn't driving for Joe Gibbs next season, but the two will be sporting similar wardrobes. Elliott will be the driver and co-owner of the McDonald's Ford with Georgia businessman Charles Hardy. The '88 Winston Cup champion will be reunited with brothers Ernie and Dan for the first time since 1991. The team will race out of the family shops in Dawsonville, Georgia.
You know, I've drove for Junior Johnson now for, this is my 3rd year, and, you know, I'm ready to go back to Dawsonville. You know, I look at it from the standpoint of all the folks down there got me to where I'm at today, you know, and I want to go back down there and give that another opportunity, and I feel like we can be as successful as we were there through the 80s and the early 90s.
Gibbs takes ownership of the NHRA McDonald's Joe Gibbs racing team that will field entries in the top 3 divisions. Corey McLenathan in Top Fuel, and the 92 Funny Car champion Cruz Pedregon will return as McDonald's drivers, while the Pro Stock entry will be fielded by Jim Yates.
People used to give me a lot of credit, like I said, for being successful with the Washington Redskins, and all I did was surround myself with some guys that when it got down to 4th and 1, I got in a panic. I'd just say, give it to Riggins, and he'd wind up scoring, and everybody thought I was pretty smart. In this deal, I got Corey, Cruz, and Jim, and I'm going to do the same thing there.
Gibbs, who will continue ownership of the Interstate Batteries Winston Cup team, says that on the drag racing side, he will not be acquiring any equipment from current owner Larry Minor, but he will continue to base the Top Fuel and Funny Car teams in Indianapolis. Crew chiefs have not been confirmed, but it is expected that Lee Beard will remain in some capacity. The PPG IndyCar World Series made its second Canadian stop last weekend in Vancouver, British Columbia. As seen here on ESPN, the winner was the Survivor, and you can tell that the season is nearing a close because tempers are beginning to flare. Robbie Gordon captured his second pole of the year to lead Nigel Mansell and the rest of the 28-car Molson Indy Vancouver field to the green. After just 8 laps, Alessandro Zampedri stopped at the chicane with his engine engulfed in flames. He was able to escape, but a new rule for temporary street or wall-to-wall circuits dictates that any time a safety vehicle is on the track, there will be a full course yellow. After the restart, Michael Andretti began to battle for the lead with Gordon, but suffered setback number 1. When far from the pit lane, his right rear tire went flat. He pitted and worked his way all the way back to 3rd place before the halfway mark. Now this is Paul Tracy and Teo Fabi, who tangled at the chicane, bringing out the second caution. Both were able to continue, but this incident won't be the only one Tracy is involved in before the day is over. Meanwhile, Gordon had full command of the race through the first round of pit stops, with Mansell following out in second. Just after the restart, though, Gordon overcooked his entry to turn 10, slid wide, and had to come down the escape road, leading him through the pit lane. He was then forced to pit immediately with a flat right rear. Mansell then led until lap 75, and by virtue of the ensuing stops, Adrian Fernandez led his very first lap of his IndyCar career, but it was over just as quickly as he stretched his fuel too long and ran out. So no surprise that the Penske of Al Unser Jr. found himself in the lead, but there was concern if he could hang on or not because he was sick since Friday with food poisoning and had to drag himself from the bed just to qualify the car. But the safest haven for this man was out in front as the racing behind him was very aggressive. First it was Gordon forced the issue on Rahal to take 3rd. Then at the chicane, Rahal smoked the tires and had to wait to rejoin the field. Mansell could only shake his head as Michael Andretti squeezed by for position. With 7 laps to go, Michael then drop-kicked Tracy, spinning the Canadian favorite into retirement.
This is the second Molson Indy, second race in Canada. Michael's taken me out of the race. He ran straight into the back of me. You know, he's been running into the back of everybody all year long, whether it's practice or qualifying or the race. The guy's got a serious problem.
Unser held on, literally, for his 8th win of the season. Gordon crossed the line 2nd, but here's why Fittipaldi and Mansell did not cross the line in 4th and 5th. On the walk back to the pits, both made their feelings very clear.
I was coming to the last corner. I saw Nigel in the mirror. I said, there's no way. I closed the door. I said, there's no way he's going to pass me. And Nigel just never back off. He tried to use my car, my brakes, to stop him. And, you know, my car is not a ghost. It's a solid piece of metal that was on the track.
Unser's win ties an IndyCar single-season record of 8 set by Michael Andretti in 1991. With his 56-point lead, Little Al can actually clinch his 2nd PPG championship this weekend at Road America in Wisconsin. The weekend didn't end with a checkered flag. After the race, Michael Andretti took full blame for the incident and apologized to Tracy. However, Chief Steward Wally Dolomek relieved Michael of $10,000 for the privilege of hitting 11 cars during the race. Likewise, Tracy was also docked 10 grand for contact with 7 cars. Those boys had some fun. Now, the monetary penalties were for unjustifiable risks and unsportsmanlike conduct. And don't forget, these two may just be teammates next year at Newman Haas. Also midweek, Bobby Rahal and co-owner Carl Hogan announced their package for '95. The combination includes a Lola chassis and the new Mercedes-Benz Ilmor V8. For the first time in a long time, a tire company gets equal top billing in the package. Rahal has committed to Goodyear as the IndyCar Series prepares for Firestone's onslaught next season. In Formula One news, the appeal of Michael Schumacher against exclusion from the results of the Belgian Grand Prix was denied in Paris on Wednesday. After winning the race, Schumacher was disqualified because the wooden plank under the car was partially worn and it failed tech inspection. Schumacher will also miss this weekend's Italian Grand Prix because of a 2-race ban handed down after Silverstone. ESPN will have live coverage from Monza with Bob Varsha and Derek Bell Sunday morning at 7:50 a.m. Eastern Time. Welcome back to the show. Labor Day weekend kept the USAC Silver Crown cars hard at work for the 42nd running of A.J. Foyt's Coors Light Hoosier 100 at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Two-time Silver Crown champion Gary Bettenhausen was on hand, making his first dirt track appearance in nearly 4 years. Our Gary Lee talked with Gary B.
I've been homesick for these things ever since I quit running them, and and I promised John Menard that as long as I was driving his Indy car that I wouldn't run dirt cars. And now that I'm not running his Indy car anymore, I feel that it's good for me to race more than once a year. It's too hard to stay sharp when you're only running at the Speedway. And now that I'm not doing any testing for John Menard, it's awful hard to really stay sharp. And this is my first love, and that's why I'm here.
To everyone's disappointment, Gary was unable to make the starting field. Chuck Gurney was the fast qualifier, but at the start, Kerry Foz in the white 69 took the lead over Gurney, Rocky Hodges, and Jimmy Sills. Foz led him to lap 25 when he got high, and Gurney slipped by. Chuck would lead, though, for only 3 laps. While trying to lap Wally Pankratz, the two collided. Chuck was able to finally continue, but was several laps down. In traffic on lap 80, Talsman in the white 61 passed Sills for the lead. But 3 laps later, trying to lap Jack Runyon, Talsma got high and opened the door for Sills to reclaim the lead and cruise to his second Silver Crown victory at the Indiana State Fairgrounds this season. Talsma took second, Leland McSpadden was third. Sills' victory gives him a 10-point margin over Talsma, with Chuck Gurney, Kenny Irwin, and Jack Hewitt rounding out the top 5. The Labor Day race at DuQuoin, Illinois was rained out and rescheduled for tomorrow. The World of Outlaws were at King Speedway in Hanford, California on Wednesday night, where Jack Hottenchild in the yellow 22 took the lead from his pole position. But on lap 8, Dave Blaney caught Hottenchild in traffic and was able to slip by to take the top spot. Just behind Blaney on lap 28, Steve Ken and Lee Brewer Jr. made contact, sending Brewer spinning over the berm. When racing resumed, Jason Lund flipped wildly down the front stretch, landing upside down. He was uninjured. Blaney took the checkered flag unchallenged for the win. For SpeedWeek, I'm Gary Lee.
Off-road Racing Soda Series met in Crandon, Wisconsin last weekend for the Chevrolet World Championship. Class of Manufacturers crowns were up for grabs, led by veteran Walker Evans. Here again is Marty Reed.
In Class 8, only 1 point separated 3 drivers from the 1994 True Value Pro Series Points Championship. And Walker Evans, Scott Douglas, and Scott Taylor were all out to stake their claim on the title. But Douglas was limping into the race with a broken leg when he was T-boned by Kurt Ledoux at the previous race at Lake Odessa. Back at Crandon, Evans took it upon himself to lead from wire to wire and leave no question as to who would take home this year's trophy.
I'll tell you, the point battle has gone back and forth, and I came into the last race with only 1 point ahead, and 2 guys tied. Any one of the other 2 could have won this race and been right here. But I'll tell you, I came out on top, and I'm very happy to be here, believe me.
The chase for the Class 4 championship came down to 5 points between Greg Gerlach and Jack Flannery. Jeff Dorr and Kevin Probst both got left behind after this wild ride by Probst back at Lake Odessa. Never has the term Earth, Sky, Earth been more appropriate. Now at Crandon, Wisconsin, Jack Flannery looked to repeat as class champion by running away from the rest of the field. But a broken fuel line ended all hopes, as Kurt Leduc would win the race, but Mr. Consistency Greg Gerlach finished fifth to claim the Class 4 crown.
It's been a tough year, and it's been a hard year, and the competition is so great that I feel really just wonderful that I could score on top of these guys.
In Class 7X, the man who has been dominating all season long, John Grief, led the race from start to finish, racking up win number 5 in 6 races and the championship.
Yeah, it's far from easy though. You know, as you know, the competition's tough wherever you go, and we just really had our stuff together this year, and it paid off in the long run.
The Manufacturers' Challenge once again found Jack Flannery all alone out front, heading for a sure victory with the white flag in sight until this meeting with the finish line. Jack tumbled out of the lead, handing it over to Scott Taylor, who won easily. For SpeedWeek, this is Marty Reed.
Here's a look at the CarQuest calendar with events coming up. For all your auto parts needs, you'll find it at CarQuest.
Before we leave tonight, I'd like to share a few of my own thoughts on the impact the ESPN has had on televised motorsports. 15 years ago, when I was competing in Formula One, which at that time was the only series that had global television coverage, American racing was something we occasionally read about. Nowadays, what were once domestic championships are now being seen worldwide. 62 million homes in the U.S., as well as over 100 countries, now enjoy ESPN. Winston Cup racing is live in England. USAC midget racing on Thursday Night Thunder is translated to Mandarin Chinese, and IndyCar racing became an attractive lure for a world champion to come and give it a go. Millions of fans on all 5 continents experience a wide variety of motorsports thanks to a night in 1979 when a dream became a reality and the screens flickered to life with a tiny regional cable network christened ESPN. That'll do it for another edition of Speed Week. I'll be here again next Friday night at 1:30 a.m. Eastern, 10:30 Pacific. Get well soon, Bob Jenkins. We leave you with a photo essay from the U.S. Nationals courtesy of photographer Ron McQueenie. Sláinte for now.